Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Today I want to talk about, you know, the pieces of advice I have for someone dealing with survivor's guilt from the perspective of having lost a loved one or friend to suicide. I want to, make the disclaimer that, my opinions come from having um, been in a place close to committing suicide. Um, that's obviously a story for another day, but it comes from that. And then two, um, I want to be clear that all of the advice that I give is just simply from my personal experience, and I don't think it necessarily represents, every single case or is broad advice that everyone should be following. I simply want to just share my perspective. The first thing I would say is survivor's guilt is normal. As a friend to a person, you know, you take on a certain responsibility for loving them, caring for them, being there for them in the good times and the bad times. And so feeling those feelings is normal because, as a friend, it's normal to feel or wish you could have been of more service or been there for someone um, in a tough spot. That being said, I think it's important to realize um, that for someone dealing with suicidal thoughts, often it really has nothing to do with their friends. It has to do with the internal pain that they are dealing with. And that, in fact, friends um, are often the reason that many people stay alive and keep going because they represent the good parts of life and they represent the joy in life. Um, Even if you were in a situation where you felt like, um, say, within the past year of them dying, that, there was some tension or some negativity or you guys had gotten into an argument, I wouldn't feel guilty about that because that's not the reason that they committed suicide. In pretty much in most cases, I would say. Um, you know, them committing suicide um, probably had to do with a lot bigger of a deeper factor than an argument or some tension in a friendship or things of that nature. Um, these things usually tend to build up, and in hindsight, I've begun to realize, anxiety and depression is something I've dealt with since I was like, 12 or 13 years old. And, I think that the main thing that you need to understand for someone in that position is really that the coping mechanisms aren't there. Um, for example, uh, their ability to deal with anxiety often um, goes to absolutes, right? So if they're single for a while, or if they go out and never get a number, or whatever, they then internalize that into, feeling lonely and then feeling like, for example, it'll never happen that they'll ever get married or that they'll ever, be a strong enough person to be a husband or, and then that leads to, um, there's no point in me going forward and continuing to live life. I hope that makes sense in terms of, I think everyone deals with anxiety, but their ability to deal with anxiety leads to extremes. Whereas someone else might look at it as, I've been single for a while, and I'm lonely, but I understand that I'm young, and I understand that I'm doing whatever is in my power to try to remediate the situation in terms of I'm on dating apps. I've joined like social groups like a softball team or something like that. I think someone that deals with anxiety better is able to not get to that extreme place and instead think about it in terms of how can I turn this into more of a problem solving rather than a self esteem or anxiety ridden situation or worried situation where they feel like it won't get better. The other thing I want to say is it really, can, unfortunately, it can, a life changing decision sometimes can happen just on a really bad night, and that's one of the tougher things about, mental health is, if the anxiety and the pain become too much one night, it can get overwhelming and extremely stressful. And, as I said, in a lot of these cases, this has built up, and it had for me. There were many nights where I was sleepless. It was tough for me to go to bed. I had pain that I was dealing with, or that was really hard for me to cope with and to and I felt like it was a battle to continue to want to live and deal with this pain because I felt like I would never be able to get to a point where I didn't feel the pain. And so, that's another thing where, as a friend, your capacity is simply just saying, to your friends that deal with mental health, is saying, I will always be there for you in any capacity at any time. Always remember that. And just letting him know that. That's the extent of what you can do. At the end of the day, one of the tough things about mental health is it takes the individual to have a certain self-awareness to know how bad it's getting, and that's not something a friend or a family member can understand what's going on in someone's mind. And so it takes the self to really be like, things aren't good, I need to make a change, or things of that nature. Yeah, so I hope this helps. Again, this is just coming from my perspective. I don't think all of this answers every situation or anything of that nature. But it's something I felt, as someone who has been in that situation and who was close to suicide, I felt it could provide a powerful perspective to my friends who have never dealt with those thoughts, who are trying to cope and move forward with a friend or relative's suicide. If there's, I really want this to be on a practical scale helpful. So if there's a situation that you as a friend are going through, I went through some situations, that I know from friends of mine that have brought up, but that I didn't address in this video. Feel free to text or DM me. I'm happy to just give my perspective. And I think, I can't remember if I said it or not, but just remember that the person doesn't want to cause you pain or sadness. And I think the biggest thing that we can do is just keep them, their spirit, with us as we go forward, and do things in memory of them. Keep in better touch with people. Let them know that you're there for them in whatever capacity that you can be. If you see them struggling, recommend professional resources like therapy. Donate to mental health charities. Have tougher conversations with friends. Open up about feelings. You never know, how it can help someone. It's incredibly hard, as a person to come out and talk about having been suicidal, right? It's extremely difficult, and people in these situations don't like to be burdens to others. They, and that's often why it happens. They're so selfless in their life, but and that ends up leading them to not care for themselves well. And they just don't want to cause pain towards others or bring someone else down, so they deal with it on their own, and then it becomes overwhelming. So, yeah, I've been rambling on for a while, but I do hope this video provides value. Thank you, guys.